Okay, let's go.
If you can't fit it in, Jimmy it in.
How's it going, people? It is Jimmy It In coming in for round 1.1. And today's episode, I guess, is going to be kind of shorter. Hopefully, try to make it as short as possible. This is my monotone moment. And what I will be talking about today, well, I'm going to talk about the issue of love. Just kidding, but kind of. I kind of had this thought this morning, and I don't mean this literally. And how do I explain this? I don't want to basically compare people to objects or anything. I'm mainly just using it as an analogy. And basically, what I was thinking about this morning is only probably two people in my immediate circle right now will understand what I am talking about and maybe who I'm talking about. So let's just say in figurative terms, there is this woman that for me, I would consider $100 bill. And $100 bill for some people is a lot of money. You can buy a lot with $100. And and for some people, $100, is about 1/5 of what they spend on a t-shirt sometimes, or something like that. But and this woman, to me, I don't know her. I know her vicariously through people I know, and she is, I'd probably be batting out of my league if, I pursued anything with her. And, I am not opposed to batting out of my league. And I say that pretty strongly because I've gone at bats with Blake Snell in high school. But no, besides that, so I just wanted to kind of talk about this thought that was going through my head. And, she's very pretty, very, attractive female. And from what I've heard about her, she is a great person. She likes to talk, very bubbly, I guess is maybe a word you could use, or very outgoing. But there's this, it's not a problem. It's more of just, so when I first heard about her, it was from a past lover of hers. I don't know how else to say it. I'm trying to allude to make it as anonymous as possible, but all the things he said were pretty negative about her. And and so this is where kind of the $100 bill comes in. Is for me, I don't know her, so she could be totally different in the sense that I only know her through word of mouth and photos. But $100 for me, that's a tank of gas. That's not, a full tank of gas, but like what I could buy with $100, or what you could get with $100 with me, is tank of gas, a log of nicotine pouches, food. Could get a meal out of that in there within that budget. And there's a lot of things I could do with $100 that people might see it as, uh, people that have expensive taste, I guess. $100 I can make 2 dates out of. But what I see or got from word of mouth from her, let's just call him an ex. It's kind of hard to dance around that word. But basically, the $100 to him was, he was flashing that $100 around. He wasn't using it wisely, or, not holding on to that $100 like he should be. He's trying to basically use that $100 up as fast as he got it. But and it kind of it doesn't deteriorate the value of that $100. But if $100 had feelings, maybe it would share that. Share those feelings of, oh, I don't feel like $100. But I think she's well aware of, I guess you could say, what she is. Like I said, I don't even know her, personally. I just have only heard about her. But in another sense, let's just get off the topic of her, for instance, and talk about maybe how men would put a value on, God, I hate using this analogy because it's terrible, but basically, there's good women out there. There's, supportive. They want to, be around you. They want to spend time with you. And, some of the things they ask may be out of your wheelhouse, or, they want to do things that maybe you don't want to do. I think as a man, going to Sunday brunch for mimosas is, I don't drink, I don't smoke or anything. So, me going out for mimosas would probably be pretty pointless, but it has the stigma around it that, and plus I come from a place and come from maybe a time, I'm not that old, but in the sense of, being a pre-2000s baby and not, there's things men do and there's things men, don't find too attractive about doing certain activities. And, if you want to go get food, you want to go see a movie, you want to go to the museum or something, that's in the wheelhouse, I guess, but doing, like, when I was growing up, my mom would take me and my brother, to like the flower shop, or go to, stuff like that. Some things that are inherently feminine in some way. And my dad never went. Because my dad was, working, or he's at home, doing work around the house. And we got plenty of that when I was a kid. I was pretty, I'd fought doing help around the house because I just want to stay inside all day or not do work. But yeah, there's that idea of um, basically, you know, gender roles, I guess, or maybe gender expectations that we have now in society that maybe a guy can go to um, Sunday brunch or go to the flower shop or do some type of activity that maybe doesn't suit his forte. But as Cheeseburger Eddie said, it ain't easy being cheesy. And yeah, and but there are things like if you're very interested in a woman, I think, I'm single. I'm going to preface this, and I haven't had a relationship in a very long time. But it's like Vincent van Gogh said, happy wife, happy life, but it might just cost you an ear. Um, but coming back to that kind of dollar analogy is like I would consider myself a $20 bill that you have in your center console or your glove compartment just in case of emergency, I guess, or you kind of throw it in there and think, okay, maybe maybe I was a little dumb with money. Maybe I was, I forgot my wallet, but I need to get gas, or I'm going someplace that only takes cash. Um, you're like, oh, well, I have that $20 in my center console or my uh, glove compartment, and that $20 bill can get you a long ways when you look at it. And whether it's I got this $20 in my in my car and I don't get paid till tomorrow or the next day, and I gotta eat. I gotta or I want to go buy a bucket of balls at the golf range and hit some balls with the boys or something. And I mean, in the sense of being a girl, you can go and hit balls with the girls, but um, it's not a lot of money. Can't really do a whole lot with it. Um, I mean, this has come from living in Washington. You can't do a whole lot with $20, but you're not going around flashing a $20 bill around, and it may not be, might be a crinkled up 20, might be a folded up 20, and might not go into the vending machine or the ATM that great because maybe the corners is folding. You can't get it unfolded, just won't accept it. But I don't know. I feel like, I'm in a pessimistic way. I don't think I'm necessarily the handsomest guy in the world, but I can be handsome. I'm working on it. I'm working on, my fitness levels and my physique. But I think, when the Tizomax up, I'd probably go down to about if there is a 2 cent coin, that would be me. But, sometimes I say weird shit, and excuse my French, but yeah, sometimes I say weird stuff and, say things out of impulse. I might be 600 milligrams deep of caffeine into the day, and, the motor's running and stuff, there's just smoke coming out of that tailpipe, and that tailpipe is my mouth. But I think one thing about me is that if you are in my circle, I will love you unconditionally. I was brought up, treat you with respect, give you the shirt off my back if you need it, um, and be a good listener. I mean, being a good listener is one thing that I kind of, I don't know, it became that because I kind of followed my pops in an interesting way. My dad was a pretty quiet guy. I don't know if he was probably the best listener, but you know, if you were having a conversation with him, he was listening to you. Um, and I think he spoke a lot through action, which is what I've tried to do now in my you know later part of my existence. Is you don't have to say you're going to do something, just do something. Um, but and I came across this verse multiple times, but keep trying to pound at it and uh, understand it. Sorry, I am. Um, I'm going to take a small break, and I will be back. All right, I'm I'm back. I had to um, make a quick call. Um, there's some activities going on after this, or should be right now, but um, not sure on a departure time for myself to get back into it. But there's this verse that uh, that I kind of wanted to go over. Let's see. Um, but as a okay, so I've been kind of going over Proverbs 31, and basically to summarize, um, uh, things that maybe a man should do for himself in a relationship, or maybe courting a woman. um, the main message, advice, it says advice to a king, but I would say advice to a man is a leader should avoid excessive alcohol and immoral behavior because they impair judgment. I would never tell someone that they can't drink alcohol, or even a woman that I'm with or anything. It's a personal choice for me that I don't. Short or long short story is basically I did drink before, um, but my dad, he's been sober for as long as I've been alive and that I know of. But he uh, he said drinking is a bad excuse to do something stupid, and I think it's the truest statement that you could probably make about a substance, or any, you could name that about any of the substances out there. Um, but I think if you do anything in moderation, but also have your wits about you and aren't a loose end, I guess, or causing trouble, and drinking's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be a bad thing, but or turn, it's not supposed. A substance shouldn't make you a worse person, because usually when someone is already a bad person, or the drinking just makes it, brings it front, full fold, no holds back. um but yeah, so that's something I believe in. um Kings and leaders must rule with justice and clarity. um So, you could say this as a man of a household that um, uh, basically, as a leader of a household, you need to establish rules and establish an order of things that um, make sense, are good for the household and good for a loving, prosperous household. What those might be, is responsibility and, you know, diligence, self control, and being compassionate for the people around you. Um, Next thing is main message is they should defend the poor, vulnerable, and oppressed. Um, you can kind of take that to life in general. Um, I personally would take maybe a stance off of that, being that some people that would fall within that don't want help. They won't give themselves the tools to get out of that. Um, and you could say it's because of mental illness, all this stuff, but um, I'm I don't know. It's a weird time with that because I live in a state where there's a lot of scammers out there. Stand on the corner um, a lot of days, and they're looking for money to buy drugs. They're not, or they on their cardboard they say something that they don't really mean. They're just trying to get something out of it. Um, but I think helping people is a really good thing. People that want to better themselves and want good things for themselves. Um, you just sometimes you got to teach them, and they don't have those tools in their toolbox. Um, but when most of the nuts are loose on that wheel, it's going to fall off, and you can't take up most of your life trying to tighten those bolts back together and make sure that wheel stays on, but you can give it a dang good try. Um, where we got true leadership means using power. True leadership means using power to protect others, not serve oneself. I believe that pretty wholeheartedly. Um, I think power it's a drug for sure. Having money in your pockets, power, and that's power over yourself or power over other people, which you can say a lot about today and what that means. And but yeah, I mean, if you have greater abilities than someone else, um, you shouldn't use that to take advantage of other people. But yeah, I don't know. That's one I'm gonna have to ponder more on. I do believe it. It's more of just kind of wrapping my head around it, um, and kind of putting out some more realistic examples of what that may look like. Um, but back to the topic of love. Um, I was asked recently by a female friend what are you looking for in a woman? And it's a tough answer nowadays, with, what, social media and everything is kind of brought out there. Um, it changes a lot of the world and changes how people look at life. Um, I've had my fair experiences with, you know, toxic relationships or toxic people talking to them, platonically or whatever. And so I kind of looked to this chapter and verse to kind of get some clarity of, maybe it could use a real, or it'd be a good resource to kind of have a foundation of expectations of kind of what you want in a partner. Um, and this will lead back to something, but um, it says that a woman's qualities should include the virtuous woman, trustworthy and faithful. There's a lot of um, cheating. I hear about that a lot. Cheating on people, or you know, porn is a big thing nowadays, and um, there's this thing, mental cheating, whatever you want to call it. Um, and there's some of that, but I haven't been in a relationship long enough to say like, oh, you just get tired of it. And I'm like, at this stage in my life, I can't imagine being tired of a person that you say you love. Um, and obviously, I'm not romantic with any of my friends or family or anything, but all of my friends, I've known them closer part of 20 years, and I'm 29. Um, and I would say that I've never really gotten tired of them. I mean, as we've grown into adults, obviously we're very different, um, but never tired. I enjoy their company. I enjoy conversations with them. Um, but next thing is hardworking and resourceful. If you're what they call a trad wife now, or maybe you are a woman who works. Um, Someone that has a good mentality about the work that they do, that, you know, they don't, you know, they can bitch and moan all you want about their day because it's just letting off the steam of the day or the tension that's built up with them throughout the day or work. And hopefully they can separate themselves from the idea that hating their job or hating, you know, you. Um, but, there's the needs versus wants kind of rolls into that is, and hardworking, resourceful is, you're working for your needs and then your wants come after that. And then hopefully they can, you know, the gold diggers or whatever you want to call them. But, people that want, they want the $100 bill. They want the walking around money where they can tell their friends about it, tell, random people about it, tell people online about it. Like, hey, I got $100 bill. Look what I can do. Um, or you have the upper echelon of society where they got more money than they could spend in their lifetime, but it's not actual money, right? It's shares and all that stuff. But um, next one is wise in managing her household and finances. Well, I just brought that up with the past or the previous. Um, remark or quality, it'd be hard for me to be with a woman who just likes to spend money. If she's got her own money, I get it. Um, I'm willing to, pay for what I can. But if me buying you stuff or taking you places or is like an essential in that, a relationship for you, then it's probably not going to work. I've had plenty of that and experience with that before, and it sucks because you might really like someone, but the part of them that wants those things just sucks because you can't live. And you know, my dad, as an example, worked a lot during the time that I've been alive, and just to get basic needs filled. And it led to a lot of tension in the house, between my parents and maybe between us, or as son to dad. um, but yeah, um, I'm a clean person for the most part. I have a 24-hour rule. If it sits for 24 hours, I got to get it done. Doesn't matter what I'm doing. um, I was a messy person growing up. My mom can attest to that, and she scolded it out of me pretty quick, going into the real world. Um, but yeah, I and I think the big thing, since I have experience with this currently, is people that are messy, basically, like especially when they're living with other people, just have no regard for anyone else around them, and they only think about themselves. We're gonna highlight that point for maybe a later conversation. Um, okay, so next one's generous to the poor. I think that kind of comes with both qualities, man and woman. Uh, that you got to help people. Don't give your whole paycheck to them, but if it's to truly get someone back on their feet and get them moving in the right direction. But once you take your eye off them, I think that's what really matters in the long run. Um, and because then you're feeding the wrong things in life, uh, and you're feeding them deeper and deeper into that hole, and that hole you might just fall in. Next one is strong, dignified, and prepared for the future. Um, that one's a tough one for me to kind of wrap my head around and kind of make a comment about, um, because prepared for the future, to me, that would just mean being an adult, being responsible, being dignified. Yeah, dignified is in there. And responsible is just a huge thing. It's, you know, because, yes, your time on this planet is very short in the grand scheme of things, and you want to do as much as you can with that time. But, you know, that's like, I don't know, it's like putting racing fuel in something and, it just burns through it quicker. And then you got an empty tank. You might have burned out the motor in it. But there's that. Speaks with wisdom and kindness. Um, Shoot, I mean, me being a quiet guy myself, I don't mind a yapper, as the kids today would call it. Um, but Uh, I enjoy a woman that likes to talk. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out when I'm leaving. Um, okay, I'm gonna try and buzz this out. I gotta leave pretty quick. Speaks with wisdom and kindness. Yes, I enjoy a yapper. Um, and enjoy conversation, enjoy listening to people, hearing about their experiences and their life. Um, and, someone that can hold a conversation is big. Someone that looks you in the eye when they're talking to you. I have learned that that is a big component of a conversation that I thought less about in my early life. And now I'm like, when someone's not looking at you when they're talking to you, it's just like, I know they're probably maybe nervous or some type of anxiety, but, be engaged in the conversation you're having, or, it's one thing if you're like, you know, you know, taking your eye off every second just because like maybe nervous, but when you're, on your phone for sure, when you're having a conversation with someone and they're on the phone the whole time, shoot, I hate bringing this up, but this is a date I went on probably in my early 20s, late teens. Um, went to dinner, I think, with a woman or young gal at the time, and the entire time that we were there, she was on her phone. I don't know what I did. Maybe catfished her a little bit or something. The photos on my dating app weren't exactly, they're the best looking of me. And when I showed up, I may have not been the best looking of myself. And she was like, "Oh shit, excuse my French again," um, but we got done with the date. I paid for the bill. I can't remember if she ordered anything. I'm pretty sure she did. She ate, didn't talk basically the whole time. And then when we got done, we got out the door. She, I can't remember the exact words, but I do remember she basically called me ugly. And I was like, shit, excuse my French again. But, you know, those are things that are neither here nor there, but they exist in the world. Um, yeah. Last one is fears, reveres, I think is. I'm not good with the English language. It's my first language and I still don't know how to speak it, but fears or reveres God above all. That one is tough nowadays. Yes, I would love a God fearing woman, but as long as she is accepting of my faith and how I run my life through and with God, um, that's okay with me. Um, I'm not expecting her to go to church on Sunday. I'm not expecting her to do all these things, but, acceptance of my belief and my faith is what definitely would be in there for me, for a woman I look for. Um, Last thing is she contributes to her family's success and earns respect from her husband, children, and community. I agree with that. A lot of notes on that? Probably not. I do want a woman who does want a family in the future. That is, that's something God has put on my heart, is that I do want to be a father and I do want to be a husband. And for me, I'm a one woman man, and divorce isn't in a picture for me. Um, there's you can put an asterisk up there on that because there's plenty of reasons that a divorce could happen, but if it's something you can work out, I think that's something you just got to work out. I don't know how else to say it. But yeah. Um, so, but yeah. One, the things that I said that I might come back to. What are those things? Um, but okay, don't even remember over my head. Um, but I hate this phrase of another man's trash is another man's treasure. Um, I mean, this day and age, everyone's probably dated before you meet them. But in this case that I'm talking about, said woman that I was talking about earlier, um, like I look at the situation and say the the problem with that situation was the man. Said man is also a very unclean person and self-centered and what else? A lot of things. When I first met that gentleman, I'm usually a person who wants to, be inviting to everybody. Um, but within maybe the first 15 minutes of talking to the guy, there's just people out there that everything out of their mouth is either a lie, an exaggeration, or, they're just trying to one up whatever you're saying. Um, and that was this guy. You know, a guy that spends a lot of his money on looks. That they're what is that thing that they got going now with the kids? Looks maxing. I'm like, shoot, not my jam. I go for a walk. I eat healthy. I'm trying to get back in the gym. That's looks maxing to me, not doing all these products, potions, whatever you want to call them, or machinery to get you looking a certain way. Um, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about that kind of rolling through my mind this morning. Um, at the end of the day, I, you know, might, if I'm playing out of my league, I'm still swinging for the fences. Um, it might not be probable, but when I went up at bat against Blake Snell in high school, I just tried to foul him off until he walked me and I got on base. I wasn't hitting a dinger off the guy. Um, or if you're a golf guy, it's like being a 30 handicap, you've never shot under 100 in your life, and you want to go play the tips at Pebble Beach or something. It's like, well, I hope you got a 5 gallon bucket of balls or more with you. You're you're playing out of your zone, but if you work at it and you hone yourself, you train. I'm making this sound way weirder than it is, but um, that maybe you can handle the course. Maybe you get through with one ball, but maybe you still shoot 150. You know, um, but yeah, me being a $20 bill, you know, yeah, that's all I really got. But I'm Jimmy at In. This is Monotone Moment with me. This is episode 1.1, and I hope you guys have a good day and or night.
Okay, let's go.
If you can't fit it in, Jimmy it in.